It was one of those cold, rainy nights when the world outside seemed to slow down, each raindrop tapping against the windows like tiny fingers asking to be let inside. I was sitting in my bed, book forgotten on the nightstand, thinking about how complicated life had become. When I married Michael, Ethan's father, 5 years ago, I knew it would be difficult stepping into a role that wasn't truly mine. Ethan had been only 12 then, guarded and cautious, keeping his heart locked away behind sarcasm and silence. He didn't want a new mom. He didn't want me. But over time, something shifted. Little smiles. A random thanks muttered under his breath. A hug, once awkward and stiff, but real. And even though it was slow, even though some days it felt like I was standing in a rainstorm without an umbrella, he had started to let me in. But that night was different. It started with a knock on my door. Soft. Hesitant. Like a child asking for permission to enter a world he wasn't sure he belonged in. "Come in," I said. The door opened slowly, revealing Ethan, but not the Ethan I was used to. He wasn't full of teenage attitude, wasn't trying to act tough. He looked broken. Lost. "Hey, kiddo," I said gently, sitting up. "Everything okay?" He stood there for a moment, dripping slightly from the rain, a backpack slung over one shoulder. "I didn't know where else to go," he said. I frowned, heart twisting painfully. "Come here." He dropped the backpack by the door and crossed the room in 3 steps. When he sat on the edge of my bed, I noticed the way his hands trembled. "What happened, Ethan?" I asked quietly. He hesitated, chewing his lip the way he used to when he was nervous as a little boy. "I had a fight with Dad," he said finally. My heart sank. Michael and Ethan had always had a rocky relationship. Michael loved his son, but he wasn't the most patient man. He expected Ethan to be someone he wasn't, more athletic, more outgoing, less sensitive. "What about?" "He thinks I'm a disappointment," Ethan said, staring at the floor. I reached out instinctively, placing a hand over his. His skin was cold, and I could feel the slight tremor still running through him. "That's not true," I said firmly. "You're an incredible young man." He shook his head. "He doesn't think so. He said I'm wasting my life, that I'll never amount to anything." The words, even repeated secondhand, stung. I could only imagine how they must have felt coming from his own father. "Oh, Ethan," I said, squeezing his hand. He finally looked up at me, and in his eyes I saw all the pain he tried so hard to hide. Tears threatened at the corners, but he fought them back, swallowing hard. "I needed to hear something else," he said, voice cracking. I don't know, someone to tell me I'm not worthless." The dam broke inside me. Without thinking, I pulled him into my arms. For a moment he stiffened, surprised, maybe, but then he melted into me, burying his face against my shoulder. His body shook with silent sobs, each one ripping through him like a wave he couldn't fight anymore. I just held him. Tight. Strong. Unwavering. "You are not worthless," I whispered fiercely. "You are smart and kind and brave. And you are so loved." He clung to me harder, and for a long time, there were no words. Just the sound of rain outside and the quiet breaking and rebuilding of a boy's heart inside these 4 walls. Later, when the tears had slowed, he pulled back slightly, rubbing at his swollen eyes with the sleeve of his hoodie. "Sorry," he mumbled. "I'm being stupid." "No," I said firmly. "You're being human. It's okay to hurt, Ethan. It's okay to need someone." He looked at me, really looked at me, and something changed in his gaze. Trust. Real, unfiltered trust. "Can I stay here tonight?" he asked, voice small. "Of course," I said. I pulled back the blankets, and he climbed in beside me. For a few minutes, we just lay there, staring at the ceiling. I could feel the tension slowly leaving his body, the way a storm finally begins to break and the clouds start to lift. "Tell me about when you were my age," he said suddenly. I smiled in the dark. "I was a mess," I admitted. "I thought I had to be perfect all the time. I didn't realize that being strong sometimes means knowing when to ask for help." He was quiet for a moment, then whispered, "Thank you for being here, For not giving up on me. My throat tightened. I will never give up on you, Ethan, I said. Not today. Not ever. He smiled, a real smile this time, small but pure. I brushed his hair back from his forehead like I used to when he was smaller. You are enough, just as you are, I said. And you are loved, more than you know. That night, he fell asleep beside me, the steady rise and fall of his breathing finally peaceful. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hope, real hope, blooming quietly between us. The next morning, when sunlight streamed through the curtains, Ethan stirred beside me, stretching like a cat. Morning, Mom, he mumbled sleepily. I froze.
Mom.
Not my dad's wife. Not my name.
Mom.
Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them back, smiling warmly. Morning, sweetheart. He grinned sheepishly, ruffling his messy hair. And in that quiet morning light, something shifted forever between us. Something sacred. Something beautiful. He wasn't just my stepson anymore. He was my son, in every way that mattered. And I was his mother, not because of blood, but because of choice and love, and all the nights we fought our way through storms like this one. The night he needed me most became the night I truly became his mom.